construction industry is a key to ensuring a smooth transition from commencement to completion of the project, and it's providing the organization with immediate and long-term value. In construction management, there are many approaches that can be using in order to improve its performance and efficiency, such as work study. So, what is work study? Work study is a generic term that used in the examination of human work in all its contexts for those technique, method study, and job measurement. There are two main of work study, which is process study and work analysis, and both divisions are aimed at increasing efficiency in building, industry, and enhancing planning. Our assignment title reflects to work study, which is one of the technique of work measurement.
Hi, my name is Siti Madana Betty Bakari, and I will explain about the productivity improvement by work measurement. Okay, for your information, work measurement are the implementation of procedure intended to assess the time of a professional employee that will spend at a given output level. To make sure the outcome of the product was good, there are a few ways to improve it. First is record of the activity at the construction site needs to be kept, and the second is scientific work measurement. Okay, for the first way is record of the activity on the construction site needs to be kept. The record of a previous project was very important because it needs to be compared with a standard benchmark, so the management are able to distinguish a good performing project with a poor performing project. Then the management will find the productivity assessment which are beneficial in maintaining and also improving the productivity properly. Second is scientific work measurement. Job metering or time study is very important as it defines the time for a skilled employee to work at a given working pace and also define level of efficiency. It calculates the time taken during the operation or the number of an operation, and is capable of separating wasteful time from a successful time.
Hello everyone, I'm Gong Jie. Now I will present about the application of work measurement in productive improvement. Firstly, the application is we can have a manpower planning, we have a production planning and scheduling. Number two, we can estimate production cost, and we can have a cost reduction and control. The next one is we can have a rational basis for incentive. Next, we can have a performance appraisals, and we can also help in the training of employees, and we also can comparing the alternative method and have accepting the new order by using the work measurement. And the last one, we can fix the selling cost. Next is the work measurement technique. The technique we have five. First is the time study, and we will use in the later on case study and will explain it. Second one is the synthesis method. Third is the analytic estimating. Fourth is the new technology technique, which is the predetermined motion time study. And the last one is the work sampling, or we call ratio delay method. Now we will talk about the step involved work measurement. Firstly, the job is divided into elements. Second, each element need to be observed and recorded. Third, unit time value is set out. Number 4, relaxation allowance is evaluated, and normal time for each element need to be added. And number 5, the frequency of occurrence of each element in activity need to be measured, and then we multiply the work content to it. Number 6, to get the standard time for performing the activity, it requires the contingency allowance to be added.
My name is Li Pei Shan. I will share about a time study which defined as the practice of observing and recording the time needed to perform each detailed component of a construction industry. It is one of the work measurement techniques used, which also essential for the planning and control of an operation. Time study is a direct and continuous extrapolation of a task using a time-keeping device in order to record the time taken to perform a task, such as the decimal minute stopwatch, study sheets, tape measure, clipboard, calculator, and normally taken using the services of a qualified worker. In the current usage, it is not merely a time of operation, but a system designed to develop standard time or standard output with any construction process, regardless of the rate of work being observed. Therefore, the time study was involved the timing, rating, and the building up of time standards. For the time study terminology and concepts, first, the timings. that the times it takes by a typical laborer for a specific type of job scope, working under moderate conditions and include which other allowance such as effective tool and job setting, tool repair, job checks and extra. The method of timing by stopwatch is the continuous method, accumulated method, and the snapback method. Second, for the terminology of rating, is the field rating may be used for grossly estimate the level of an activity of a construction operation. This field rating method simply categorizes the laborer measure as either working or non-working and use the working as the percentage to determinant of effectiveness. The total observation of work divided by the total number of observations plus 10% as the calculation for the field rating. Besides, the performance rating also is a process for which the time study engineer corresponds the productivity of the observation operator, which is on concept of performance level, which is the observed performance divided by the known performance and times for 100. Third, the basic times is the time required for a laborer to carry out a certain task with a standard and normal rate of working. In practice, the laborer on site could not be expected to complete the work within this time without adequate rest time for them. This can be obtained by the observed time times for the observed rating divided by the standard rating. For the relaxation allowances, which refer as time given to allow a laborer to recover from the effects of fatigue and no attempt to personal needs. The personal need allowance provides for the need to leave the working condition to meet personal needs such as drinks, food, laundry, etc., while fatigue allowance is provided to recover the labor of the construction project from the physical and physiological effects of the work being performed. There are two types of relation allowance, which is fixed allowance and the variable allowance.
Now I will be continuing to the rest of the terminology of time study. Now let's talk about the contingency allowance. The contingency allowance is an extra time for the contingency or the legitimate delays on site. It's including the unavoidable delays such as the breakdown of the machinery, the shortage of the material, and also the change of works on site. It also including the time for the recurrent works on site, such as the time needed for our workers to clean up the tools and machinery after using it. And next, let's talk about the standard time. So what is standard time? Standard time is the total time taken for the qualified workers to perform and complete a task at a standard performance. So when we calculated the standard time, it should including the additional for the relaxation allowance and also contingency allowance. So when we have identified the standard time for all the elements, it will be summed up to figure out the standard time operation for a task. It can be used to identify the cost for the material use, rental cost, and also labor cost according to the standard time needed for a task. As we know that to get the most accurate data, we need to carry out the observations on site repeatedly. But how do we know that how many types of the observation need to be carried out to get the most accurate data? So this is the answer. By using the cumulative average basic time graph, we can identify the required numbers of the observation. So this graph was plotted by using the cumulative average basic time. So we can see from this graph, the line of the graph has a very obvious up and down line at first, but as the new data was added inside, the last has slowly become flattened. So when the graph has reached nearly a straight line, it means that we have carried out the enough number of observations. And the differences among the data is smaller in this time too. So in this moment, we can stop carrying out the observation and the most accurate data have been obtained.
Hi, I'm Elaine. Now I'm going to present the procedure of time study. First, select the operation to be studied and then the best working measurement technique can be decided after that. It seems that time study is the most appropriate method for existing and repetitive cyclic operation. After select the work measurement technique, the observer will start by observing the process without timing. This must be done by watching a few number of cycles or obtaining explanation from the supervisor or workman until he can understand truly the whole process. The operation should then be broken down into several elements. However, the numbers of elements should be carefully chosen so that the breakpoints separating the two elements can clearly identify through field observation depending on the objective. Next, planning for field data collection. Timing methods such as flyback method is advised to use when only involve measurement of one operative. Otherwise, cumulative timing will be applied. For the selection of equipment, stopwatch is a basic timing device for determining the accurate time standards. Other equipment may include the pencil, calculator, study board, and pre-planned time study observation form. After done the preparation, the actual timing can begin and the observer is positioned at a suitable place so that he is able to see what happening throughout the duration of the study. The actual observation time for each element is then recorded. The observer must record the total work content completed during the study period. The element time can now be calculated using the clock time readings at the breakpoints, which are then entered under the observed time and subsequently converted to base time. The basic time need to transfer to the short cycle study form, which contain subsequent records of elements for 10 cycles. The calculations are self-explanatory, and the last column provides the average base time for each element to be used for a subsequent synthesis. And finally, the last step is to fill the summary sheet after obtaining all the data.
Let me tell you some advantages to apply the time study on a project. So first of all, it can help to carry out an evaluation on the work performance. This is because the time taken for the workers to perform the task will be recorded during the observations on site. And secondly, it is very useful in the planning and scheduling of site works by identifying the labor requirements and the site resource during the observation. And next, it can also help to identify a suggestion for the improvements of site work. So we may observe the method and technique used by the worker during the observation so that we can give the suggestion to improve the method and also reduce the time needed to complete the task. And lastly, it can also help to carry out an estimation for the total duration and cost. So the time study can help to identify the standard time for every element, and this can help to estimate the total durations and calculate the cost needed to complete the task. However, there also has some limitations to carry out the time study. So the first problem is the time study requires a long time needed for the observation. It cannot collect the data in a short time since it requires the repeated observations on site. And secondly, it has the unclear breaking point of task. So there is no clear definitions for the breaking point of every element. It is very highly dependent on the knowledge and the acknowledgement of the observer to identify the start and complete point of every element. And next, the time study only focuses on the collection of standard time for the task, while the other issue which may affect the completion time of tasks, such as the experience and the knowledge of the worker, is not included in the record of data. And lastly, it is not suitable to apply for the non-repetitive works. It is suitable to apply on the work which is repetitive and also visible. So it might only applicable for the manual job that carried out by the workers on site.
My name is Shaira binti Alias, and I would like to talk more about our case study. For our case study, we are choosing to calculate to analyze the standard time of the method completing work for roofing at the lot 2987 Taman Mutiara, Johor Bahru. For the methodology of concrete beam, for the first we need to pour the concrete into the concrete skip, and the second deliver the concrete skip using the crane, and the third discharge concrete skip and spread the concrete, and fourth is vibrate the concrete, and for the last is level the concrete using trowel. After that, in order to calculate the standard time, first we need to get the record of operation from the contractor. So as you can see on the table, after getting the record, we will get the record of mating, cumulative time and observed time. So if we have three of these, we will be able to calculate the basic time. So how to calculate the basic times? Formula to calculate the basic time is using the observed time, multiply by rating and divide by 100, so we will get the basic times. So as you can see on the table of 6 record, we can calculate the start of pour concreting using the rating and observed time. Okay, which is the observed time for concrete pouring, which is 0.27, multiplied by the rating of work, which is 100, and divide by 100, and we will get 0.27 for the basic times. And the process will repeating until the end of the record for concreting work of roofing. finishing all the 20 records, we will calculate the average of basic times. The formula to calculate the average of basic times is the total of basic times of each step divided by the frequency, which is the total of the record. So for an example, if you can see on the step 2, we are using 10.38 divided by the total of frequency, which is 20, and we will get the 0.52 for the average of basic time for the step. After getting the basic times, we need to have the total of relaxation and contingency allowance. So for our case study, we assume the total of relaxation and contingency allowance. So after getting this data and percentage, we will be able to calculate the standard of time of each work. How to calculate the standard of time? Which is we need to use the average of basic times, multiply by 100 and plus the total allowance and divide by 100, so we will get the standard time of each step.
So, as a conclusion, we had learned the procedure involved during this time study process. The first procedure is we need to select the work to be measured, then we will check and break the work down into the part of our element activity, and lastly we will carry out the analysis with a ranking and timing technique from examining each job features of the building site. All the data that we collect will be recorded, and the standard time that we found is 5 minutes and 4 seconds.